This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for all of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and like almost every artist ever, I use Pinterest a lot to find, save, and organize inspiration and reference photos. I have for almost a decade now, actually, to the point that I think I've saved well over 20,000 pins at this point. And that's because it's always been an incomparably great platform for browsing images of all kinds, with such a massive library of them available, and an exceptionally good algorithm that almost immediately and scarily accurately tailors the images shown to you based on what you engage with most. And it's no surprise that it's been such a staple for the art community when the founder himself outright said that the platform's primary goal was to inspire people. That's why it's been so overwhelmingly disappointing to watch it slowly, and then not so slowly, devolve into whatever it is now. Because any artist who's used it within the past year or two has seen it go from the ultimate resource for creatives of all kinds to a cesspool of slop that's borderline impossible to navigate through to find anything worthwhile. There have, however, been some recent changes that claim to help mitigate the issues. So today I want to take a look at what happened to Pinterest, whether it still has any value to artists as the resource that it once was in its current state, and show you guys some potential alternatives to it if you're planning on leaving after its massive deterioration. But first, real quick, let me take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, a longtime partner of the channel and the single best website building and hosting platform that I've ever used. Like, on the topic of resources for artists, they're an amazing one, because I mean, I know I say this all the time, but I'm gonna keep saying it because I can't stress enough that one of the most important things for any working artist is a good portfolio. Even if your work is absolutely incredible, clients aren't going to take you seriously if it's not displayed clearly and accessibly on a portfolio that looks professional. And Squarespace is the perfect place to build exactly that. I've been using them for years to build both my previous branded cutesy portfolio and my new revamped, more professional version. And despite the very different styles, both were just as straightforward and easy to make. And as god tier as their portfolio options are, that's just the beginning, because they have a huge library of templates perfect for any type of site, organized into a ton of different easily browsed categories. And that includes online stores, because it's just as easy to turn whatever kind of site you build into one with all of the tools that they offer. The ability to manage payments and inventory, handle shipping and fulfillment, and even boost your SEO to help you get more people visiting your site, and therefore more customers shopping there. But it's not just physical goods that you can sell. Selling services like consultations, event management, editing, and even art commissions is just as easy with everything Squarespace has to offer. A streamlined workflow, built-in appointment scheduling, email marketing tools, and so much more. They also make it as easy as possible for your customers to pay, because they offer all of the most popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay, and even allow you the option to send individualized branded invoices to specific clients, so you can start accepting orders from all around the world with just a few clicks. So whether you're an artist in need of a portfolio, an entrepreneur building an online store, a creator setting up an interactive blog, or a small business owner making a landing page, Squarespace is the place to do it. And you can find out yourself by going to squarespace.com to get your own free trial today. And once you've built the perfect site that you're ready to launch, you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain by going to squarespace.com/Duchess, linked in the description. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and please go check them out. But let's get back to Pinterest, because it's time to address the biggest reason for its downfall. It has quickly become so completely overrun with AI-generated images that it's a genuine struggle to find anything else, or even be able to tell in the first place if what you're looking at is a real photo or piece of art. All social media platforms are facing this problem, but most people agree that Pinterest puts all of them to shame. And for a platform that's primary focus is image sharing and saving, it's also much more of a problem for them than it is for others. This isn't just a moral issue either. Yes, I personally find AI image generation unethical, as I've said about a million times before and discussed in depth at length. So I do consider this new AI-ruled Pinterest to be morally problematic. But you don't have to agree with me on that to agree that for Pinterest specifically, the prolific and overwhelming spread of AI-generated images is a problem, because the impact it has on a technical level is just as concerning. Most artists use Pinterest to find references intended to make their art more accurate to reality. That doesn't work if they instead find references that are AI generated, especially if they can't tell that they are, which is becoming increasingly difficult, because those references aren't bound to the rules of reality and often don't depict things how they actually look. They may be anatomically impossible, demonstrate unrealistic and inconsistent lighting and shading with no clear or definable light sources, be depicted in impossible or conflicting angles, or any number of other potential inaccuracies. And those inaccuracies, if the image is used as reference, will then be just as present in the artist's work. This isn't just a problem for artists either. People consult Pinterest for reference and inspiration for everything. People that cook and use it to find recipes are now instead finding AI-generated photos of food that look nothing like what the linked recipe actually produces, or even what is humanly possible to produce at all in some cases. And sometimes even AI-generated recipes alongside them with portions and ingredients that make absolutely no sense at all. Crafters and fiber artists are finding AI AI-generated designs and creations that are physically impossible, alongside patterns that either don't work or don't create anything like the image they were promoted with. People looking for ideas for new hairstyles find inspiration photos to bring to their stylist, only to be told that hair can't actually do that because it's an AI-generated image, not an actual photo. And maybe worst of all, people use Pinterest to shop. In fact, the current CEO has said that he now considers Pinterest's primary function to be as a shopping app. And one of the most popular things to buy on Pinterest is clothing, which is now promoted with almost exclusively AI-generated images of clothing that doesn't actually exist, sending you to listings where you can buy what you think is gonna look like that, but almost never does. You'd think that would actually be illegal as a form of false advertising, but here we are. The point is that because there are so many people using Pinterest for inspiration for so many things, the overwhelming influx of AI-generated images disrupting their ability to do so effectively has led to widespread discontent and a large number of people leaving the platform altogether. And this has actually prompted Pinterest to do something about it, although the steps they've taken to solve or at least mitigate the problem are dubiously effective at best. Still, let's go over what they are so that you can judge that for yourself, because it's really a matter of opinion at the end of the day. The first thing they did, and I will give them credit where credit's due, because they were one of the first platforms to do it, was introduce generative AI labels, which tell users if an image they're viewing has likely been generated or modified by AI, at which point they can either choose to hide it or ask to be shown less AI-modified images if that's their preference. This function utilizes classifiers that automatically detect AI, as well as analysis of metadata, although its effectiveness is limited because, as the CEO himself said, there's not a precise ability for any platform to catch 100% of what is AI generated. As such, the label says, "We believe it may have been modified with AI," as it ultimately can't determine that for sure, which isn't unique to Pinterest by any means, as the CEO is correct, and it is impossible with the convincing quality of AI-generated images these days for any platform, service, or individual to accurately determine human-made authenticity all the time. However, not only is the system not consistently effective at catching AI-generated images, allowing many of them to slip through the cracks without labels and pass as human-made, actual human-made art and real photos are being mistakenly marked as AI-generated and given the label, hiding them in the process from a significant amount of people who have asked to be shown less AI-modified images. So if you do ask to be shown less of these images, it's not only not going to be able to screen them all, or even many in my experience, but it's also going to stop you from seeing actual authentic photos and pieces that were falsely labeled as having been modified with AI. People who have had their pins given the generative AI label mistakenly do have the option to submit an appeal, but I've heard that the process is slow and many are just outright denied immediately. The second thing they did was expand the amount of control that users have over the specific types of AI-generated content that they see. They now allow you to access your settings and view the different categories of images that you're recommended, like art, architecture, beauty, fashion, decor, and so on, and toggle whether or not you want to see AI-generated images in each one. Personally, I don't find this feature particularly useful, simply because I don't want to see AI-generated images of any kind in any category, but I can see where they were coming from with it, and I'm sure some do find it helpful. Still, it presents the same problem as before, because it ultimately still relies on the flawed detection system that may not even filter much, while also risking filtering out human-made images in the process. And to be clear, I'm not necessarily blaming Pinterest for that. I do think they should make the appeal process easier for actual humans with falsely flagged pins, but short of banning AI-generated images altogether, a flawed system like this is pretty much the best anyone can do given the current state of things. Of course, they could just ban AI-generated images altogether. They'd still face the same difficulty in identifying them, but an outright ban and the removal of anything their system marks as AI-generated, subject to appeal of course, would at least discourage the posting of it and make it significantly less appealing to the people who do. Obviously though, they're not going to do that, given that the CEO is passionately, publicly, and loudly pro-AI, and intends to implement it widely. He said that generative AI is going to be like Photoshop soon, and quote, "Almost every piece of content you see will have been at minimum edited by AI in some form or another." He's also quoted as saying that AI is at the heart of the Pinterest experience, and the company stated that they're working on adding even more AI features with a focus on AI-powered shopping, with a shopping assistant that acts like a best friend. Terrifying on a fundamental level and worrying based on those AI-generated images advertising products that look nothing like them. But the point is that there's no way AI-modified or generated images are being banned from Pinterest in the foreseeable future. So the methods they've implemented so far in terms of limiting their prevalence seems like the best we're gonna get. Ideally, they'll at least keep working on improving that system's effectiveness. But as it stands, I've set it to show me no AI-generated images in any category, and I'm still drowning in them whenever I open the app. And I've heard the same thing from everyone I've spoken to about this. The problem, at least in my opinion, has not been solved, and Pinterest remains the same AI cesspool that it's been since this started in the first place, leaving artists desperately seeking an alternative. There are three that I'm going to go over here in a minute, but before I do, I want to address those of you who are like me, seeking alternatives but still so dedicated to Pinterest that you don't want to leave altogether either. For me, it's because I have so many pins already saved there that it would be like abandoning existing resources just because of the lost potential for future resources, and also because the algorithm is so good that no other platform really compares. Whatever your reason may be, I understand the reluctance to outright abandon Pinterest over this, even if you are sick as hell of the slop that's overrun it. So I want to go over 2 ways to make using it more bearable and less AI riddled. First, do try out the AI filtering tools. Their effectiveness may be limited, but it's worth a shot, and the more people use them, the more Pinterest will take that to mean that maybe it's worthwhile to develop them further, hopefully. I also assume that they have analytics tracking how many people choose to be shown less or no AI-generated content via those tools, and if they see that a lot of people are, it will ideally further communicate the widespread distaste towards its prevalence on the platform and make it clear that we really don't want this shit. Second, and more effectively though, you can utilize just how good Pinterest's algorithm is. I've never used a platform with a more intuitive algorithm, and it almost immediately tailors itself to show you more of what you engage with an incredibly high level of accuracy and consistency. This is, however, a double-edged sword, especially now. It considers just clicking on an image engagement that means you want to see more like it, and you often can't tell if it's AI generated based on the tiny thumbnail alone, so you click it to enlarge it and only realize that it is once you have, teaching the algorithm that you want to see similar images in the process. There's nothing that can be done about those accidental clicks, but do try to avoid engaging with obviously recognizably AI generated images whenever possible. If you have engaged with enough of them that the algorithm is subsequently drowning you in more, or it's just already doing that on its own, which it does, you can abuse the fact that it adapts so quickly to reset that by mass engaging with a bunch of authentic human-made photos and art. Finding them isn't always easy, because searching for anything directly gives you so many AI-generated results that there's almost no point anymore. Boards, however, provide a tentative solution. You can filter your search on both mobile and desktop by clicking this icon beside your search result. If you select boards instead, it'll show you public boards made by real people matching your search terms. A lot of these will have AI-generated images on them too, but in my experience, most are fairly well curated to include primarily human-made photos and art, especially the older ones that were started long before AI became a problem at all. You can even search no AI images and filter for boards. And while the ironic result will be a lot of collections of AI images, I found a few made by artists specifically excluding them in the title, and obviously in contents. I've included links in the description to a lot of boards that are mostly, if not entirely, AI-free, and engaging with those images en masse will very quickly and effectively force the algorithm to prioritize similar ones, rather than whatever AI slop it was throwing at you before. But for those of you still looking for alternatives, let's go over some options. They're not the only ones, obviously, but they're the best ones that I've personally found and used. The first and most similar in format, purpose, and functionality is called Cosmos. The UI is almost identical to Pinterest on both mobile and desktop, the only real difference being in the terminology used. You save pins to boards on Pinterest, and you save elements to clusters on Cosmos. It's the same thing though. I tried it out extensively while researching this video, and I really like it. It's definitely tailored more towards designers than artists in my opinion, but the library of images on there is growing every day, and becoming more and more useful to creatives of all kinds in the process. There's more high quality photography than anything else, but I've found plenty of art on there as well. I just had to search for it manually. They have that same view similar images feature as Pinterest too, so once you find one image like what you're looking for, it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole of being recommended tons more. I will say the algorithm is definitely nowhere near Pinterest though, and I've used it extensively to test that. I really tried to teach it and it did not learn. But the mobile app is great, albeit a little slower to use than Pinterest, and I think that the more its user base grows, the better of a resource it'll become. The primary downside though is that they don't have a clear AI policy that I could find, and they do allow AI generated images on the platform. They do offer a similar filter to Pinterest, however, and I haven't come across a single one during the entire time I've used it, suggesting that I'm either extraordinarily lucky or there just aren't nearly as many AI generated images as there are on Pinterest. The next alternative is Pexels, which is the exact opposite in that regard. They completely prohibit the posting of any AI generated images. It is completely authentic, human-made content. If you search for a horse because you're drawing a horse and you want it to look right, you're not going to drown in a bunch of AI generated horses that are probably anatomically correct in 843 ways. You'll exclusively get photos of real, actual horses. I don't know why that was the example I went with. I wasn't even a horse girl, but whatever. Pexels has become my go-to default platform to find reference on now, because if I search anything on Google or Pinterest, I have no way of knowing whether or not the results I'm going to be shown are even real. Which is one thing if I'm just looking for inspiration, but another entirely if I need accurate reference. On Pexels, I have almost 100% confidence that every image I'm shown when I search for something is real, and I feel safe and comfortable consulting them in my work every single time. They've been an absolute lifesaver and a breath of fresh air, honestly, and I swear by them and recommend them to every artist I know. And every creator, because you can directly use the images and videos themselves royalty-free, with Pexels encouraging and making it very easy to credit and support the creators who posted them every time time you save one. They're very, very artist first. They also have a mobile app that's fantastic and very similar to Pinterest in terms of functionality and UI, and you can both favorite images and bookmark them, which prompts you to save it to an existing collection or to create a new one to save it to, and collections are basically boards, functionally speaking. It also has a more like this option like Pinterest and Cosmos, and search results are always very accurate in my experience. The only real downside is that it's solely for photos and videos and not art. So while it's a godsend for reference, it's not useful at all if you're looking for art to be inspired by or even use as reference as well if you're looking to consult it for stylization. Finally, the last alternative I want to mention is Tumblr. I know, okay, hear me out. I realize that Tumblr is associated with a lot of things, and art reference resource probably isn't the first thing you think of when you hear its name. But put those associations aside for a second and consider its value by way of its tagging system alone. I've used Tumblr for over 12 years, and I've never once had to fight with an algorithm to see the posts that I want to see, using the following feed anyway. If I follow people, I see their posts. I am very rarely recommended anything other than that in that feed, with some exceptions after they started allowing users to blaze or pay to promote their posts. The Your Tags feed is the same, but for tags that I follow rather than people. The For You page is, as it is on almost any platform, primarily algorithm and recommendation driven, but you don't have to use it. Most importantly, when you search for a tag, you only get posts that are tagged with it. Not posts that an algorithm or an AI thinks are relevant to the term, but to my understanding, solely posts that have been tagged by a person with that term. It means that if you search for something you want reference of, you're gonna get very accurate results. Yes, Tumblr is a social media platform first and foremost, and not an exclusively image-based platform. So in those tags, you'll also find links, text posts, GIFs, quotes, videos, and so on. But you can easily filter them out and choose to only see images. Regarding AI, their policy on it is very unclear, at least as far as I've found, but the overall sentiment amongst users is overwhelmingly anti-AI, at least in the circles I've participated in, which has led to significantly less AI-generated images on the platform than most others. There are also tons of blogs specifically dedicated to posting and reblogging specific types of images, including art references of all kinds, which you can consult directly when looking for what you need. You can't save and organize images like you can on Pinterest and Cosmos, and you can't even like them privately. The original poster and, if you liked a version of it that was reblogged by someone, the person who reblogged it, are both notified of you liking that image, and it shows your username publicly. But you can access and easily browse your likes in their own section, and you can easily just make a throwaway blog that's used solely to gather and save reference if you're concerned about privacy. And if you do this, you can also set that blog to private, and then you can reblog images rather than just liking them. If you do this and tag them all individually with things like reference, inspiration, anatomy, color, art, and so on, you're the only one who can see them on your blog, even if your username is publicly listed on the reblog list. And you can therefore organize types of images just like you can on Pinterest, because you just have to go on your blog, click that tag, and immediately be shown every other image you reblogged with that tag, just like viewing a board. But that's it for my Pinterest alternative recommendations. I'm sure there are plenty of others, but these are the ones that I've personally tried and used extensively and had largely, if not exclusively, positive experiences with. If you have others that you found helpful, please feel free to leave them in the comments, because both I and I'm sure many others would love to hear them. In conclusion though, is Pinterest completely dead and valueless for artists now? No, I don't think so. I think it's still a salvageable resource in many ways if you know how to navigate the hellscape it's become, but it does take more effort than ever before to salvage it, to the point that it's the same as, if not worse than, Google Images now. And that's effort that a lot of artists no longer want to put in just to find images to inspire and reference in their work. A lot of us also just don't want to support the platform anymore on an ethical level, given how openly pro-AI they are and how much more they plan to integrate it into Pinterest in the future. There's a lot to consider now when it comes to whether or not to continue using it, but hopefully I've managed to either give you the tools necessary to do so more effectively, or give you alternatives to turn to instead. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Haruki Saluzzo, Extinction Animation, Andy the Hedgehog, Kai the Memer, Jazz, Sayori, Stardust, Hailstorm, Darkholder, Another Foxboy, Palestar, and Cyber Tori, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Jamisha Walker, Kim Yen, Crazy Asar, Gentong, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Finn, Celine Merriman, El Duchess, The Stray Dog, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Catbus, Lucy Yamajiki, Selena Bibi, Pryday, Totally Shogun, Insomniac Sleep Schedule, Wing Tang Wong, Marie Greer, Potato, Jazz, Voidwalker, Latte Tabby, Christian Cook, Adam Surovietz, Doriaki, Varius, Hailstorm, Emo Queen Jules, Lord Darkholder, Show, That's It, Craig, Stardust, Scarlet Flame 234, The Names Are Gone, and Luwuka Owo, and I'll see you in the next one.